What is up, peoples of the YouTubeverse? I am back once again. Another video about tree frogs. We're gonna go specifically over the green American tree frog today and the dumpy white tree frog, which I used to say was like New Zealand or something. I said I wasn't sure, but apparently doing more research, I was corrected and it's New Guinea. I knew it started with the new, but the white tree frog are found only in Australia and New Guinea. And then the American tree frog, green American tree frog, can be found all over, pretty much mostly the East Coast. There's not really so much on the West Coast, but let's get into more about frogs in general and about what they are usually about, how they can be housed together, that kind of stuff. Okay, so I'm not sure how well you can see that or not. Anyway, this is the American green tree frog. Immediately I see something when I'm scrolling through here. I am not exactly sure why that they say. Now, terrestrial, this word, is almost correct. But with tree frogs, they are not so much like that. First, let's go over what terrestrial means. Now, what it says there is it says terrestrial animals are animals that live predominantly or entirely on land. Etc. or examples, cat, ant, snails, and compared with aquatic animals which live, let's continue this because predominantly or entirely in the water, fish, lobsters, octopuses, or amphibians, which rely on the combination. See, that's just so confusing right there because you're getting people to think that amphibians are the same as fish and lobsters and octopuses and stuff. And then aquatic and terrestrial. Okay, so they don't even use the word amphibian at all in this, when I'm looking at this. It's just, that's a bad example, to be real. Let me go ahead and break down what the three different types of animals are that live on what. So obviously in my research, I've seen a lot of things that were just, ugh. So they're actually called arboreal. Arboreal, let me go ahead and show you how that's spelled real quick. So your basic Google definition says it so simply. Arboreal, chiefly of animals, meaning mainly animals living in trees. Arboreal rodents is another example there. So that's very few and in between. So when they call arboreal rodents, you're talking more like your squirrels and chipmunks and things like that. Relating to trees is arboreal. And when we talk about arboreal, we talk about tree frogs, being that they are in fact tree-dwelling creatures. And they are also amphibious and they are also reptiles. Another fun thing about frogs, in their evolution they've jumped back and forth between having teeth and not having teeth. Toads do not have teeth the last time I checked. Again, I could be mistaken because there could be a species of toad that does have teeth and I could not be aware of it. But they can see, and also, fun fact, in complete darkness. In pitch black, frogs can see and perceive things still with their eyes. They have a very weird oval shape in their eyes that adjusts to take in even the most minuscule amounts of light. Another fun fact, when they swallow food, they close their eyes real tight. You see the eyeballs do a little shrinky thing. Their eye muscles are helping them push their food down their throat because their teeth do not do any chewing. They do not do any help to bring the food down their throat. It is just simply to keep the food from crawling back out their mouths. And it can change based on the frog, whether they have teeth or not, but let's go over about the teeth thing real quick. So again, I'm always telling y'all to be careful about what you read and stuff, but this is not for all frogs, every frog, but the teeth that they do have, this is a very good example right there. What they have is tiny, like, structures of sort of like teeth, almost. They don't chew, they don't help swallow, they just keep the food from getting out. And if you're reading there, the teeth are maxillary teeth. And up on the upper jaw is what the vomerine teeth are. And so essentially, they do have teeth, but not really. In fact, that's not even true for all species that they have teeth or not. A lot of your frogs will have some form of tooth structure, but for the most part, it's useless. And many times, I've seen some say 15 or so, maybe even more so, but they, through evolutionary terms, have gained and lost the ability of these teeth and stuff. Mostly, the evolution sort of turned towards the eyesight of things with the frogs because nature's crazy like that. I can't tell you why it did that. It's actually really cool. They can see in complete darkness, and some species of frogs can be heard from a couple miles away real easily. As far as tree frogs go, they have a loud croak, and also fun fact, they don't really hop as much as they do crawl around and everything. If you see videos of frogs jumping, it's just because they're scared. Most of the time when you see a frog, you frighten them and they jump to get away. In fact, jumping takes way more energy than them just crawling around. So they do enjoy that, and then a lot of species of frogs, since they're amphibious, do their fastest movement in water or along the water surface. And I say most species because you do have species such as the Pac-Man frog, which do enjoy soaking, but they're not very good swimmers. What they do is they kind of hunker down into the earth and so on. Now those are terrestrial frogs. Arboreal frogs, like we're talking about with the tree frogs today, like I said, the American green tree, which usually is about 4 inches long, or give or take about 6 centimeters, for those who know centimeters. And then your dumpy whites is double that size. Distinct differences I will show you in pictures real quick about what they are, because I've seen some things in research where I look up green tree frog and they have a picture of a dumpy whites, and there is a very easy way to tell, despite the size, of what's what and who's who when it comes to those two types of frogs. So right here, I pulled up images of green tree frog, and immediately I am met with the conglomerate of things that are not quite a green tree frog. Now, let me show you what's what in these pictures for what you call a green tree frog. Now, a green tree frog, this one right here, that's a really good example. I like that one. Let's see if we can get a better one. Yes, that one right there. That distinctive line going from the mouth and heading across over the arm, that is a green tree frog signature look. And they will have that before they are full grown. So if you have a frog and you're not sure which is what, look for that white line, that distinctive white line going right there. Whoop, I forgot I have a touchscreen. So that's a better picture of it than right here. And then here we go. There's some other pictures of frogs and stuff, but we're not going to go into those because those are a lot of like red-eye tree frogs and stuff. Yeah, so that's a red-eye right here. That is not a green in any way, shape, or form. It's a tree frog, very similar, same size. Now this is a dumpy whites. Notice how when they are full grown, they actually look whiter and everything. They look a bit bigger. And that is because, yes, in fact, compared to the green tree frog you see here and them, they're double the size normally. Now they can house together if you do your research, if you give them a tank gallon size that is over 20 gallons, and you make sure that the green tree frog is full grown and that your white tree frog is a juvenile growing, they have a very good chance of growing together, being friends, and nothing bad will happen. This is the case for my tree frogs that you see, and the case for a lot of other people who have tree frogs have told me as well, that they've housed their dumpies with smaller tree frogs, but you do have to be aware of the size. If they are less than half the size of the frog, there is an extremely good chance that one day they get hungry and you're not going to have two frogs, you're going to have one. And this is because they're opportunistic hunters. They are insectivores, but as well as being carnivorous, because they will eat anything that is able to fit down their throat, whether it's another lizard, whether it's another frog or a lizard, or anything of that. So even small rodents, Pac-Man frog, have been seen in the wild, and some people who own Pac-Mans will also give them pinky mice or something, or a small rodent for them to eat. Goldfish is also, fishes and stuff are also on the menu for a frog. So you got to be careful with the size difference. And that is really the big thing. Tree frogs are social critters. So they like to be with other frogs. And as long as everyone's peaceful, as long as everyone's eating well, there's not going to be any problems. Now, one thing with frogs that is very dangerous, if one gets sick, there's a high chance that the other ones can get the disease as well. This is where some species of frogs have almost been wiped out completely due to illness or disease. So be careful. Make sure you have a quarantine tank or a separate tank put aside so that this way, if any of your one amphibians do get sick, or there's something that you're afraid that they can pass on to your other frogs, that you can separate them, give them the medicine they need. Also, make sure you have a very good or reputable veterinary site. I'm trying to say a veterinarian. Make sure you have a veterinarian that specializes in exotics, reptiles, or anything like that that you trust. Make sure that they know what they're doing, because some people can say this, that, and the other, and oof, I've heard some horror stories out there. So just be very careful. And with that, you can have them together. You can keep everyone safe. It's just you got to plan. They're living creatures. You can't just buy a tank, grab a toad or a frog from outside, and shove them in that tank with some dirt and sticks. You need to do research. You need to understand where they're coming from. And you need to understand what to do when things get weird or wrong. So there are times where frogs can go into such stress that they can just prolapse. And if you don't know what that means, I'm not going to explain or in detail. It's just, let's just say it's not pretty, okay? And if you're going to look it up, be prepared and don't look at images. Just look at descriptions, please. So, yeah, it's not fun. It's really not. I've seen way too much of it between small mammals and frogs in the years I've been working with animals. And thankfully, not so much in my own home, but definitely when I was working at the stores and everything. So, as far as that goes, those are really the big differences in the two different types of frogs. They are great pets. They can last anywhere between 7 to 10, in some cases up to 15 years. So you gotta just be prepared. They're amazing friends, and I have seen a lot of stuff about handling them. Be very careful about handling any amphibian. They have a very unique type of skin where they absorb a lot through almost an osmosis, in a sense, where their skin and everything adjusts to water and humidity and stuff. It's why they dry out so easy. The oils on your hands can be very dangerous and can cause irritation to a frog's skin. So if you are going to handle them, wear gloves, or just make sure that you have a dirt separating. So like if you're okay with like having dirt in your hand and having the frog sit in your hand with the dirt over it, that's another thing. But you do not want to make direct contact with your fingers to a frog unless absolute emergency, like the frog jumped out and you need to catch him and put him back real quick, and that's fine. They can soak in the water, but continued handling will cause them extreme irritation. So be aware of that as well. Now, that's really about care guide stuff. I know I probably might have missed some things because there's so much about frogs out there, especially just with those two species. And that's only those two. I'm also very familiar with stuff like golden tree frogs. I'm also very familiar with dart frogs. Cool fact about them, they're only poisonous in nature because they get their poison from the bugs they eat, similar to the way how lionfish get their venom from eating other venomous creatures in the ocean. Anywho, that is some fun facts. And for today, I'll leave it at that. If you want to know more, if I missed something, comment, let me know. If you like what you're seeing, then please subscribe. I love comments as well, because comments and questions spur on these kind of videos. So anywho, thank you guys so much for what you've been doing. I've been loving the love. I hope that you all have the best of wherever the day you at, whatever the night you at. I just hope the best for you. With that, peace out.